music collabs are something that come up over and over again with what are you listening to as you're painting this and that. In the business I do with Beyond the Streets, it's graffiti is this, street art is this, fine art is this. They always expect everybody to be listening to something when they're painting, when they're drawing. And the more I've dug in through the years and visited a zillion artist studios, it's usually all completely wrong what the public thinks, which is great. It's always good to prove everybody wrong. And so much of what we do is work with rule breakers, mark makers, and people that are really doing things on their own terms. And when I heard that you were doing the record, when you all were doing it with them, I didn't know any of you, but we have a lot of mutual friends. I just thought it was perfect. I know it's a switch from your imagery, but sort of the exact same thing in a sense with at least a theme. And from what I know of your imagery, thought it would be perfectly fitting. How did this even happen?
We were introduced through our mutual friend Benji Madden from Good Charlotte, and Matt came up to the studio and we just started hanging. This was 2019 maybe, right? 2020? I can't remember.
Probably earlier. 20.
Yeah, 20. I can't remember what
18,
year. But
19?
yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so this came from friendship. Pretty much.
Like we just became friends and spent time together in my studio, and that's about it because I never fucking go anywhere else. If you want to hang out with me, come there. Otherwise, I never go anywhere.
I think I invited you to a couple times to dinner or something. He's like, yeah, come to my studio.
So yeah.
I think, throughout our career, we've always focused, the primary focus has been music, and the art has always been something that we care about, but we always care about it too late, and we don't have time to like meet deadlines and stuff. And when I saw Wes's stuff, I instantly hit up Benji and said, you have to introduce me to this guy because this is incredible stuff. And this is years before this record even started, happening. And just being a fan of what he does and wanting to collect his stuff and just seeing it around was incredible to me. And so this time it was, we had the time with COVID and everything going on with the record, how long it was taking. We actually had the time to really try to get the full vision, which was the art, the aesthetic, the live show, the music, the production, everything. We had time to actually put it all together. And, I had asked him, jumping ahead a little bit here, but I had asked him, years ago if he'd want to do something, and he's a hard guy to get to.
We go pick something out, and then Kanye would come steal it.
No, but we wanted to work with him for a long time, and then everything just happened in the universe, it seems, to have it happen when we were finally finishing this record, and he was inspired and we were inspired, and it all worked. We can get into that story a little bit, but it really was just a long friendship of wanting to do something together, but it never happening, and then all of a sudden it happened.
Well, the reason just presented itself at the perfect time. That's it. It's easy. Like people ask you to, can you do this? Can you do? And it's like, yeah, but like what? Like I need something concrete. And so they were starting. Matt would like share. I was actually listening to him the other day, like demos of like really early versions of these songs that I would play in the studio, and then just then another one would show up, and it just kind of it was a real slow build. But then the work came to me as like right after my son was born last year. I was very focused on that, and then I just really needed to go to work. I just needed to let something out. And so I went to the studio for a few days, and these just started like pouring out of me. And I was texting them to him as like I like sent him the first one. He was like, oh shit, that's sick. I sent him another one, that's so sick. And then, how are you doing these so fucking fast? Which made me like go like faster and faster and faster and faster. And I just was listening.
Were you sending them though with the idea of this is for the record?
it just like clicked that this should be the record in my mind, and I was like hoping that he would like fall for it.
And to be honest, I had asked him multiple times before if he wanted to do the record, and it was always like, it was no, but in a nice way. Like it wasn't no, like I don't want to work with you guys. It was that his headspace was somewhere else, right? And so when he was sending this stuff, of course I'm thinking this would be fucking sick, but I'm not gonna go ask and get but then I think you sent me a text and said, you should use these for your record. And I'm like, yes. And I was in the studio with them and I'm like, dude, guys, what do you, and everyone was like.
And there's so many of them.
Yeah, it was like.
It was a sweet.
Like all of it? Like we can use all of that?
It was like a huge what the fuck moment.
So it was, and this is, we're jumping through, but it was years of just being in love with his work. And you have to think, like, I was sending him demos of this song, Nobody, which is the first single that we have right now, but it was like me singing a falsetto over this thing where I'm just like, just sending him stuff, and it was like a huge riff, and I was like, Nobody, this painting that he had done previously, and I think in 2019 you'd done it, but it was like on his screensaver while we were writing on Pro Tools, and I was like, we're like that art was bringing out this sort of darkness, this riff, this sort of like vibe, and so we were being inspired by this stuff that Wes was sending us that was not for us. And then when he finally came around and said, well, this is something you guys can use, it was just like, that was the perfect style. Because if you look at the Nobody painting, it does fall in line with what this all.
It was like a precursor body of work to this. I made
it's
in
very
2019 where I spent a month in my studio listening to nothing but Danzig, Samhain, and the Misfits on loop every single day for a month, and I made 50 drawings that were for a project I was doing overseas, and I had always wanted to like continue that group of work, but life got in the way, other shows and all kinds of shit, and then I just had this perfect like moment where I was like, that shit, it like clicked in my head, I have to talk to that body of work again, and then this happened.
Was it some of the demos he was sending you? Do you think that was helping get you back to that body of work, or?
Yeah, it was like we were kind of talking like pretty frequently at that point in time, I think, and it was just like, so it was like in my mind. It just happened. I don't know. It's very hard to explain, like, or be like, this was the definitive moment where I was like, I'm going to do Avenged Sevenfold's record art. It was just like.
Well, and you were also doing a lot of different stuff. You're doing that show in like Scandinavia, maybe, but there was like that colorful stuff you were doing, and there was some other stuff that we were very inspired by that was very different than anything I'd seen from him. Like those huge paintings you'd done with the cool frames, and we were looking at that stuff and going like, this is insane, and like. The record is really colorful, but the record also has this impending death the whole time. So when you look at this art and it's like the color palette and the way that it's always it's got these sayings that you can kind of really, if you sit with them, they mean a lot to a lot of people. Mindfulness and just this sort of living in the present. And,
these are just basic human decency, which is something that a lot of people have decided doesn't exist anymore. And so I find that it's, my job, part of my job is to like tap people on the shoulder and remind themselves that like, you don't have to be a total piece of shit all the time. You can like, be good and look inside yourself and do things for yourself and not be so driven by money and Instagram likes and fucking Balenciaga shirts and shit, you gotta take care of yourself and your mind, because we're all going fucking mad right now, it seems. And like, so that's what my work has always been about. It's just, we're hitting this like stride as people that's so unbearably fucking disturbing. And, I think that what their record is about, what if you really listen to it and you look at these drawings, they're like saying the exact same thing. And that's why it just worked so well,
Avenge has a very particular style from music to imagery that I've seen. Of course, it changes record here and there, but it's very specific. Were you all afraid, in a sense, maybe having a little less control over something like this time, and asking Wes, as an artist, what will you come up with? What if he comes back with something you didn't like, and what was Plan B?
Well, funny enough, when you listen to this record, it is completely different, and it has a whole host of really exotic sounds, to say the least. And when I first saw the art, I was like, that doesn't look, it feels like it. It feels like it, certainly lyrically, but it doesn't look like it. It's so bizarre. I'm wondering what everybody's thinking. And then within 48 hours, that juxtaposition of that aesthetic to the sound made more sense than anything in the fucking world. And when you hear it and you look at that, sure, lyrically it ties in, but there's such a great juxtaposition to the art and the music that I just find extremely fascinating at this point, and how, like, it's not something I could have ever come up with. I would have never gone back and forward if you know his work. It's like he went back and he also went forward in a super imaginative way. So it's an honor that we didn't really have control, and a fucking real fucking artist did it and just completely reinterpreted, from my perspective, reinterpreted the music. And I know lyrically, again, it definitely ties in, but when you hear the music, it's definitely a what the fuck.
And bright.
It is big and bright, yeah.
It's so good.
You were legitimately going back and forth with each other, inspiring each other and sort of egging each other on in a way.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Which I've never been able to do. I've never done a record cover my whole life. Records are so important to me. I did a Grateful Dead box set in 2012, but it wasn't like I was sitting with Jerry Garcia, like, going over songs and shit like he was fucking dead. And I'm a huge Grateful Dead fan. And it was a huge honor as well, but it was different, That was like a dream come true in a different way, whereas this is something that, like, this is just magic that was supposed to happen, that none of us had a choice. This was just going to happen. It wasn't like they hired me to do this. It was just like I had to work on something that just happened to work perfectly at the right time with what they were doing. It wasn't like predestined that I was going to make their album art. It just felt right when it was being made that it should be the album art.
Having listened to the album on repeat in here for the last 2 days, and looking at the paintings a lot, I completely see the connection, no question. And it's not like, look, of course there's one that's chosen for the cover, one for this, one for that, but there's not one that's better or worse, or this should be the key art, that should be the key art. It all works, and I feel like any of it, in a sense, is interchangeable.
Yeah.
Because it's all powerful. And at first I was like, is this one about this song? Is this one about this song? But in a sense, it's still just all work together in a story. I mean, I know they're in here in an order, but if we picked them up and moved them around, like, they still work perfectly.
Thanks.
At least to me, they do. Is there other plans with this imagery other than the album? What else are we going to see it on? What else is happening?
I mean, we've used it on everything from the T-shirts to the live production to the art gallery. I think one thing that, for us is, like, letting go of control has been completely liberating in our, at our age at this point. Like, working with people that we respect and know better than us, even though we have a vision of where we want it to go, we know that it doesn't need to be A to B. It can be, this can go here and it can go here and go many different places. And we're just fluid with it. It's just really fluid. And we also had the same concept with what was the cover? There really is no cover. Right? There's so many different angles we've shown people with this artwork. We've shown, I'm looking at all these right here. We've used most of these as the image of the cover. And there's going to be one that's kind of the main-ish one, but I've seen that cover, and I've seen that cover, and I've seen that cover. And to me, like, that's what, it doesn't need to be a traditional album cover. It just needs to be a traditional vibe. You know, it's like a vibe. The whole thing's, the whole next few years is going to be this vibe, and we're just going to like sink our, you know, or dig our heels into it deeply and really.
And I'm already thinking about like, once they're like, you know, a year into doing tour and doing whatever, it's like, I want to make more shit, you know, to make new merch or whatever the fuck, or, you know, it's like, I want this thing to like live. It doesn't just have to be put a pin in this and this is it, you know? Because I'm really fucking into this record. It's amazing. And like, I don't think that, it's been a really long time since an album is, I don't know. The state of music is pretty dismal. And so for these guys to take the, but it's bigger than it's ever been. You know, music is permeating society in crazy ways, but like, I think this thing is going to make a huge mark in a bunch of different ways that goes way beyond just your core audience, which is super important. But I think you're gonna, the sounds and the ways that you did this, it's gonna be attractive to like so many different people that listen to so many different kinds of music. And that's what's so exciting about it, you know? It's not just like they just laid back and like, if we make a song that's like this song, you know, we know that the fans are gonna like it and we'll, you know, it'll do great. It's like they've matured greatly and like pushed themselves to get out of a comfort zone that I think that you probably were pretty fucking comfortable in from the outside looking in, right?
For sure.
But I'm sure it was also driving you fucking crazy inside. It'd be like if I had just painted the same fucking painting every day. I'd fucking want to kill myself. And I can't imagine that music is any different than that.
Exactly.
So it's quite impressive that they took the chance and like really mixed it up and gave themselves so many years to do it instead of just settling and putting out a record that everybody's like, yeah, this is great, man. You know, like you didn't do that. And that's hard to do because people just want to do the easy thing. And they didn't do that because that record was hard as shit. This shit was easy.
No.
So, 7 years, 3 days.
Yeah.
But a lifetime of work to get to those 3 days.
it was like divine intervention. I had nothing to do with it whatsoever.
You all are collectors of art, all of you. Mm-hmm. What is it like being in here, walking around for the first time, seeing the work living outside of your studio, outside of the record, framed on a wall?
It's
what you imagine?
It's huge. To kind of coattail off the amount of time that Wes was speaking of, the last 5 to 6 years, like it's just been a whirlwind. This record is older than one of my kids. She's 3.5. And so to spend that much time on it and then have that divine intervention where, you know, outside of just the art, like logistically, the stars aligned. Like how many fucking pieces? Like it's a suite of 20 or something like that. That's
20 and then the 2 death bats that I did.
Right. And that's the most incredible thing in the world because we don't want this to have a couple of singles and a quick tour and we're gone. Like we're gonna put spotlights on every single song and there's just so much representation here. Like the best representation that we've ever fucking had for our music. And it's just mind blowing to walk around in here and see how massive it is. It's overwhelming in the best sense. So yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, we just got off a plane flight from Ohio. We played a festival last night. We're all fucking tired yet full of energy for this, and just there's a surrealism that I'm certainly feeling. So it's really special to have that little bit of tiredness, to have the excitement of playing in front of tens of thousands of people last night, to walk in here and just be immersed in the art at its core. Its absolute core. It's fucking.
This feels like the
next
core
level.
of the record.
Yeah.
This is incredible. Like this is what we want to expose our fans to. We want them to expose them to like this feeling, and thank you for having us here, because this place is so clean and it's awesome. Yeah. So it's
you know,
really cool.
as maybe I don't do a lot of shows, so it's nice to like see this clean, tidy version of it. It feels really good. Like I like it quite a bit.
And I'll say one other thing, like, the last time I saw this art, it was pinned up in your studio, which I think your studio's, that's like an incredible place to be. It's like there's just so much going on in there. And every time you go in there, there's
like a show every day.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
It's raw too.
But I remember when you told me that this was painted on this paper that had come from your original, like the city and like planning papers, and we've made copies of all this stuff and we've framed the originals, and sitting here and like getting to actually look at all the, I don't know what you would call it, but you see all the city planning stuff in the backgrounds of all this stuff, and it's kind of crazy, and like you can see all the strokes and just the depth of it all. It's incredible to see it now that it's framed and done. Great job, Sam. Professionally done. It's mind blowing. I mean, I want to put this in my house, but I can't because there's 4 other band members. So.
Who decides who gets what?
Well, what we've done so far, we have a warehouse, and so far we have it in the warehouse. But like, I think everyone wants pieces of it, but I think we have to decide.
It's like timeshare.
It is kind of.
I'll probably be the easiest one. I'll take any of it, and I don't mean it to be like, oh, I'll take it. It's all so great. It is, but like really, I have a new favorite every day. It's all just mind blowing. And like we were looking at Felipe Pantone a second ago in the back, and appreciate you opening that up. And not every artist is as spectacular and mind blowing from afar as it is up close, impersonal, right in front of your face. And the closer that you get to that, the more fascinating it is. You're not this close and going, I see a secret. I see something here, maybe not a blemish, but just something that's a little out of what you kind of perceived it to be. It's just flawless, and great artists have that from afar, and up close, it's equally compelling in different ways and speaks to you as voluminous as each perspective does, but in different ways. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just mind blowing to get that close to greatness.
Something, because I've seen bits and pieces of your work in person, but not a full show of it. And walking around here, having seen the photos of it, etc., there's a lot more energy and life that's coming through these works than I ever would have expected, especially dealing with the dark content that I know all of you deal with, but in a sense, you're bringing through life in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's never like, it's not supposed to be dark. To me, it's not dark. It's very hopeful, all of this stuff. It's just, these are pretty in-your-face reminders to, get your shit together and live, because you never fucking know, And yeah, it feels good to see this, because I like really don't do a lot of exhibitions. It's like, I don't want to say it's not important to me. That sounds shitty, but like, I don't think about that while I'm making stuff. I just make stuff. I'm just so in the zone of doing it, and where I work is just this massive building that's like a monument to myself, essentially.
It's incredible.
And so, like, I'm always feel like I'm in a West museum when I go to my studio. And so, and when I've had exhibitions, I work with a gallery now, but our relationship started right before COVID happened, so I've never gotten to go to any of the shows, except Aspen, and then I fucking got COVID when I was in Aspen, so that sucked. So I haven't been to an exhibition of mine since 2019, so it feels nice to see it on the walls.
Great bands have great imagery usually, and sometimes the imagery is more known than sometimes the songs people know of. I feel like you've created 20 plus images for a great band that are great images that can live on, you know, as the mythology.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
can't wait to see all the kids running the streets with the merch on. I love that shit.
It's amazing.
We've done 2 shows and there's a lot of it already out there, and it's really cool to see because, you know, it really stands out. You know, I went to a festival the day after we had played a show in Vegas, and you could see the tan aesthetic with the like it just looks like the black paint and the Reapers, and it's all large print, and it just stands out. And to me, that's cool, right? It's like you don't fit in. It's something different outside the box. It's outside the circle, and it's going to be fun to kind of let this stuff permeate into society, I guess.
Is any of it getting animated for the videos behind the stage or screens while you're playing, things like that?
Yeah, so we have a really good team that's working in Unreal Engine 5, and they've taken like aspects of his studio where they put stuff around, and then they can actually make things, a weird reference, but there's a video game, it's an old game, Mario 3D, that came out back in the day, and what you do is you jump into paintings, and the paintings were alive, right? And you jump into those worlds. And so we're doing that kind of concept where you can kind of walk through one of these paintings and they're moving, and you jump into the painting, and then you're in the painting. And then the production will like have the aesthetic of what's going on. So we're working with technology and doing a bunch of different things that are going to make these things kind of come to life.
That's one of the really exciting things about working with these guys, because I'm so fucking lo-fi and analog and barely know how to use my cell phone. And so they're like, you know, always on the cutting edge of all this crazy technology shit. And to see that, like, I see things out there, I'm like, that looks really awesome. I have no fucking idea how to get there. They're just gonna do it for me. Which is really cool.
Yeah, you all have done a lot with Web3, with technology and all of that, which also I thought it was so interesting when I heard you were doing this with Wes, and we want to hang paintings of this, of that. Okay, like what I do know also of you all, again, it's a lot of technology, early adapters, Web3, but now we're sitting in a gallery with real paintings.
Yeah. I was telling them earlier, you know, my 8-year-old son, I took him to Bionic Records last weekend, and he was obsessed with going through the vinyl. And we bought Appetite for Destruction and User Illusions, and then we bought like a Daft Punk record and a couple different things that he loves. And these are tech kids that have TikTok accounts and they love technology, but there was something about the record that blew his mind. And so he had ordered a record player online that we didn't know about. You know, we had our Amazon accounts were signed in, and a record player shows up, and you know, this like kid record player, and he puts on Appetite, and he actually has our record too. So we got some early, and he was blown away that the record could actually play. He's not blown away that the technology. So I think there's, you know, just because there is streaming and just because there is technology doesn't mean that there's not something deeply affecting happening when you stand in front of a painting, or if you hold a piece of vinyl, or you smell the CD booklet, or whatever you want to do that makes you feel what we all felt growing up, or even for my son who's 8, who just sees the value in holding this thing and being able to put the record player down and play whatever song he wants and kind of jump around and hear what the record's doing. So I don't think it needs to be this or that. No. Technology can move forward, and we can also enjoy things like a gallery that you can't. I don't care if you're in the metaverse, I don't care how great it looks, I don't care what kind of VR set you have, you're not gonna be able to see what this painting has to offer unless you're standing here in person. And so you just can't be closed off to either side, in my opinion. You just have to kind of be open to all of it and just see what the landscape will give you.
They can supplement each other too. You know, you can put ownership on chain and things of that nature, and artist royalties and stuff for digital works. And so it's just meant to supplement. It's not meant to disrupt this. There is no substitute for this, you know, but you can provide a layer of authenticity for it. You can, you know, bring people together, maybe in the metaverse where they can see it, and maybe they'll want to come here and check it out because they had an immersive experience with the works, you know? And so, yeah, it's all meant to kind of feed each other, you know, all roads, not just leading to Rome, but all roads leading to all roads.
Bottom line to me is it just expands the audience
100%.
and lets things live.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're not going to be here forever, so might as well
Maybe.
let this stuff. There you go.
There's his technology guy.
Could be.
We're gonna upload our
As I'm
brains pretty
drinking
soon here.
whiskey, I'm speaking of
5 more years.
longevity.
Cool. We're good.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
Thanks
This is
for
great.
having us.